Okay, welcome Stephanie, and thank you so much for coming on, because this is something that's really, really important, I think, for so many of us educators who are finding ourselves either in the position of not having a job, i.e. myself, or in the position of having a job but needing or wanting to develop an independent income. So I'm hoping that this series will be able to bring people on who are doing it to a certain extent, and who are successfully doing it, and just so that we can develop some ideas and a support system for all of us who are in the same boat, basically. So welcome Stephanie, and I'm going to ask Stephanie a few questions, and then if we could open up for a Q&A for everyone to ask Stephanie, or myself for that matter. And then afterwards, I'd really like to have a corridor with people talking about how, if you would think that it's valuable that we carry on this discussion series, how often you'd like to meet, and what are the topics and ideas that you would like to be discussed over the next few weeks, months, years, who knows. All right, so Stephanie, what's your background story? Let's start off with that.
Yeah, so I was a former assistant head of department, English teacher, at a North Waikato composite school, so year 7 to year 13. That's basically all of my teaching experience was there, because I actually started off as a student teacher there. And then towards the end of last year, I left. There were some advantages to the change, such as wanting to have a better work-life balance. We all know, I think, as teachers, how taxing it can be. And especially when you have young kids, as I do, I have 2 young children. I was just sort of getting a little bit tired, I guess was my main word. I was honestly just tired of juggling it all. My husband also works full-time as a teacher. And I think, you know, there were things in the education system as well at large that were starting to take their toll. And so once I adjusted, I was actually able to think, this could actually be a good thing for me and for my family. So that's where I got to setting up my business, I guess.
Yeah, I think most of us can relate to that. And even those of us who are actually still in the system, there's so much time and energy put into our work, and at the moment it's really hard to make ends meet, even with a job. So I totally get where you are with your 2 kids as well. Having the freedom to be with them and set up your own schedule must have been a huge advantage.
I mean, I think at first I was quite skeptical, and I was quite, let me say, negative. I'm a person who likes control, and I'm very diligent and hardworking and organized, and I've only ever had 2 jobs in my life, and I'm 29. You know, I'm like very loyal and like consistent. And so this was very scary. You know, I've never sort of seen myself as someone self-employed. Like, my husband is very entrepreneurial. I'd see him as an entrepreneur one day, but me, no, you know, that just doesn't sort of fit with what I thought of myself. And so I was very negative, and I thought that my business idea would come to nothing. But, you know, I just went on faith, basically, and was very, very surprised.
Absolutely. It is a very scary thing, especially when you're so used to being in a system that is perceived to be safe. and having the idea that you'll always have this job because that's what teaching is about. So what exactly are you doing with your business? What exactly are you doing?
Okay, so in summary, I'm tutoring, but I also offer consultation and marketing services. It's kind of evolved over time. At first, I was sort of, I guess, offering a range of courses or classes. So when I first started, I was offering homeschooled courses, so the group lessons, and they came as a package with assignments, with feedback, that kind of thing. And I ran a couple of those courses successfully. There was more students in the year 7 and 8 course than there were in the year 11 course, but I still had multiple students. And then I also had some individual or one-on-ones. And I think at that stage, it was mainly, it was spanning year 7 to year 10. And then I started to get some interest from homeschooled parents who are homeschooling, who have senior students, and they have enrolled them as private candidates for exams. And so I think they were feeling like they didn't have the expertise, because of course it's, year 12 English, it's getting quite robust here. They didn't feel like they had the expertise to prepare their children adequately for the exams. And so they were sort of seeking out some sort of arrangement with me, so it ended up being quite busy, because I contract to another tutoring organization, because I bought a house 18 months ago with my husband. And so, we were in a position where I needed to be earning income quite urgently. And so I sort of just took on as much as I could, because I didn't know what I would get. And then I ended up actually being quite busy. And so, And so in term 1, I was delivering the homeschooling courses as well as some one-on-ones. And then in term 2, I made the decision that no, I needed to drop some things because it was too much. And I put a lot of sort of effort into creating engaging, innovative lessons. And so I didn't want to sacrifice quality for quantity. It's just not me. It would stress me out, because I want it to be a high standard. So I dropped the homeschooling courses. And so at present, I'm just tutoring senior students who are preparing for their Cambridge exams. So a few of those students are homeschooled, and a couple of those students are attending a registered school. So their tutoring is supplementary to the learning that they're receiving at school. At school,
yeah. Which sounds absolutely, amazing, really, in many ways, because I think a lot of us have got into a funk where we think, I can't get myself out there. I can't. A lot of I can't's going through, and it's totally natural. It's totally natural. I've had a lot of conversations with teachers who have completely lost their confidence because of the whole climate at the moment. So how did you, and this is a bit of a, how did you set yourself up to succeed? How did you set yourself up to get into it?
Just while I think of it, just because you were talking about, sort of wanting to do something but feeling restricted in some way, I just had a thought that I've noticed a change in me. So since I have become autonomous and, doing this business, I've found my passion return, actually, some of my passion. I'm able to be more creative. I'm able to really focus on learning. Of course, there's administration that comes with a business and like communicating back and forth and so on. But, I feel like, and I think you guys can echo this, we're getting increasingly burdened with paperwork, aren't we? And admin. Absolutely. And even things like, communicating with all of the parents. I mean, I had 5 classes, it was a very full-on situation. And you know, at times I couldn't feel like I could evenly deliver things at a high standard because there was just so much workload. Whereas now I feel like it's a little bit more manageable, and I can actually I can just put effort into the learning, into the resources, into the things that truly matter, and feel so satisfied and proud of what I've created and what I've achieved. And so it's given me some passion. So that was that. While I was thinking of that, what was your question? Was it how did I go about?
How did you go about setting yourself up? Yeah.
So I am very fortunate to have a husband who has a computer science degree and is an IT teacher at the moment. And so he made my website for me using Elementor, which is a popular software. He was involved with the technical side of the website, and then I was involved with creating the content for that website. So like what I would have on there and how I would articulate myself. And my husband also offered some really great pointers, like what kind of name to give myself, because you can think, oh, I'll give myself a very sort of clever name. But he suggested, why don't you just make it what it is? Make it quite self-explanatory, so that if people try and search for you, they'll find you. And that has happened. Like with several of my clients, they have found me online by searching for me. And then basically the other clients, they were I was referred on by the existing clients to their new clients. So word of mouth, and then just making sure that, you know, your business name will be found, that it's optimized in a way that it will be found. That took us a couple of months to do the website. We thought it was pretty urgent, and so we worked pretty hard on it for and then aside from that, it was just like little things like, you know, creating the courses and sort of figuring out what type of services I'll offer and pricing, and you know, because those things you have to consider very carefully. Even things like, you know, making sure that you have an email address that matches your business name, you know, like just another big thing was I have a friend who is a photographer, and she came to take branding photos of me, and that made a huge difference because my website is quite neutral, but the pictures on there make it really stand out. And I've had a lot of people say that the photos made a big difference. So I definitely recommend, just like, you know, sometimes the small things can make the biggest difference.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And obviously, you know, having a Facebook page, and I think like I wrote a couple of blogs for my website so that potential clients could get a really good indication of what my philosophy is, because you know, you can describe your philosophy, can't you, agentic, what have you, but you know, it's really when you write a blog, or when you give strategies, or when you give concrete information, or when you share results, that's when they'll be hooked in. So on my Facebook page, I try and make sure that I'm, you know, sharing concrete strategies and my rationales for why I do things. And then I think, I mean, there's probably a technical name for this type of marketing. But, you know, when you say to people, I'm actually quite booked up at the moment, I might be available in September.
They go, oh.
They go, oh, okay. She's actually quite popular and she's doing well, you know, so things like that. And I mean, I did well in business studies at school, but I by no means have knowledge or background in marketing. It's basically just been, I don't know, what feels like the right thing to do, I guess, and praying about it and talking with my husband about it, because he's very smart, street smart.
Yeah, I'm just going to do a quick plug for the ARC here, seeing as it is my business. But the reason why we set up the ARC is basically for people like you that can put that people can come to one place and find tutors and things. So really that's why we've kept our subscriptions so low, is so that we can get more, as many people as we can on board, not only so that we can make money, that actually wasn't even the priority in all this. It was basically to be able to be of service both to the community, like the public, and to educators who need or want a place to be, to put themselves out there. So that's why we exist. So for people like you, I know that you're not on our directories, but that's people's choices as well. But so it's definitely possible that you can actually develop your own income to the point where you can sustain yourself. Do you think that you could do that if you were working full-time working, if you could do this kind of part-time as a side thing? Do you think?
I mean, I think you definitely could tutor students who are attending a registered school. I think it would be difficult to tutor students who are homeschooled in the evenings, because I found that they don't typically like that. And I mean, I'm homeschooling my 5-year-old son because I'm only working part-time, and it's mostly in the afternoons and evenings and only a few hours during the week, basically during the day. And I would say, as a homeschooled mum, you know, the afternoon slot, evening slot, it doesn't really work. So yes, I think it could. I think if you were working full-time and doing it on the side, it would be quite a lot of work. So take care of yourself and don't take on too much, I guess.
Yeah. Can I ask a question?
Yeah,
Can
sure.
I ask a question? So you say that in the evening doesn't work after school. Do you say that? Did I understand properly?
Yes, yeah.
Can you say why and when is a better time?
So what I was saying was that if you are working full time, then you probably would be tutoring in the afternoon, evening. And so homeschooled students aren't typically really available in that late afternoon, evening slot. But if the students were attending a registered school, then, you know, it obviously would suit. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And just to echo, Stephanie, I think if you're going to actually set up your own business and you're teaching, you really have to be quite clear on what you want to do, first of all, and then take the time to set it up properly. Like you said, you set up your website and everything, and I found that exact same thing. And in actual fact, I've ended up setting up 2 businesses at the same time. First of all, the ARC education, but the other side of that is I have my own consultancy business now too, and I do very much the same as Stephanie, in that but I work with children with learning support needs, as I'm primary trained. So I think a lot of primary school teachers would go, well, it's all very well for a secondary school teacher because they can do their specialized subjects and they're doing exams and things like that. But I think there is definitely call for primary school teachers as well, especially around the whole home education side of things, with literacy and numeracy particularly. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a part of quite a few groups out there on Facebook, and there's been quite a few requests over the last few months for, like, you know, help with their children and they're young, like they're 8 years old, and it's to do with literacy. And I've had a few people tag me, and I've just said, look, no, I'm a secondary school teacher, and that's where my expertise is, and there is someone else out there who is more able to assist an 8-year-old than I am. So there is a need for it. And I think
the thing is not to be afraid, number one, to go for it, but number two, you really need to be prepared to put in the mahi, because there's quite a lot of mahi, especially at the beginning, and it's yeah, we want to get everybody on board here at the ARC Education, but I would say to anybody who is thinking about doing this that we're not the be all and end all or the answer to anything, to everything, to a few things perhaps, but not to everything. And there is quite a lot of work that goes into getting your name out there, isn't there, really, Stephanie? I mean, how can you give us a little bit more detail on how you got your name out there? I know you said that there was a word of mouth, but what do you think was the maybe the two most effective strategies that you?
The two most effective strategies is like one, making sure that your business name sells your service. So mine is englishtutor.co.nz. Like it's literally just English tutor. And then I've got a logo with like I think it's a light bulb, and then well, I can't remember the rest of it, but yeah, English tutor. And so I found like a few clients from them searching for me because they were looking for an English tutor, and they found me. And then from a couple of those clients, they referred me on because they were happy with the services that I provided. And so sort of there is an incentive for them too, because the tutoring is more affordable if it's a group situation rather than a one-on-one. So for them, they had an incentive, not just that they were happy with my services, but it would make it cheaper for them if they could find someone else who could also join their child in the tutoring. So that's one thing. And then the second thing was I did post onto the Homeschooling New Zealand page and described myself. And I think they don't want you to just sort of say, oh, look, I'm a teacher and I can tutor. They want you to actually say, you know, because there was a little bit of that, I think. And so that, you know, they want you to actually say, well, what is your approach? What is your expertise? They want to get a bit more information. And then obviously if you have a website to go with it, then that's ideal, because then if they're interested, then they can go to the website and see the thorough content there. So that would be my two. I guess that's having a good business name, having a website, and then finding the groups that you can try and plug into. But I would say, as a disclaimer, be respectful and be aware of what the group rules are. So what I did was, I think they allow you to post onto a certain thread where they advertise all the tutors. And so that's where you need to go to advertise yourself.
To advertise yourself, yeah, absolutely. Hopefully, as we grow, we'll become a hub that would that everybody can come to. Yes. So what are your plans for the future?
Well, at this point, good question. But at this point, you know, I think that I just want to focus on the niche of like Cambridge exams. Because I guess with Cambridge, the advantage is that it's all externally earned, right? The qualification, as opposed to NCEA, where it's not, and it's kind of harder to get the necessary credits from just the exams alone. So I'm sort of plugging into Cambridge exam preparation, basically. And I'm not looking to make this business full time, because as I said, I've got other commitments with family and contracting. So I think that'll be enough for me. And I was thinking like maybe once a year or a couple of times a year or something, I could run a homeschool workshop on a particular theme or something that I'm really passionate about or something, you know. But I think aside from that, that's sort of where I want to keep it. I would like to see more students join the Cambridge exam prep classes. So at the moment for my year 12 one, I've only got 2 students. And then for my year 11 class, it looks like I might have only 2. So if I could expand those to have more students, that would be awesome, you know?
Well, that sounds like a really directed future plan, which actually is really, really important in many ways, in any business.
Anna, I resonated with what you described about how this year was a time of kind of almost reprioritizing what you valued, or a shift for you, and that's what it was for me as well, like a time to reconnect with my family and a time for me to kind of evaluate the direction I was going in and say, okay, well, where do I want to go next? And it sounds like, Anna, you've reconnected with your passion, almost like with what you want to do. And I kind of feel like that too, just this sense of like energy and enthusiasm, because I'm loving it,
Definitely. I'm after 30 years of being in the classroom and in schools, and 20 years of which working with learning support and our most at-risk students. This year has been incredible, very much that for me. Actually connecting to myself more than anything else, because you lose touch. You lose touch of yourself when you're in the system, because you're so busy looking after everybody else, that reconnection with self and that reconnection with your children, your family, and the community actually is huge.
No. There was just, you reminded me of a book. I recommend it. It's called Disobedient Teaching: Surviving and Creating Change in Education, and it's by Welby Ings. And I don't know if you've heard of it. Quite a recent book, but yeah, basically it's just talking about, like what change can you make at the grassroots level, and I've always, like, right from the start when I became a teacher, I thought I don't want to go too high up in the career ladder, because I'd rather just stay at the grassroots level and affect change there, because I think that's the most important place to affect change. I was just going to say, like, when you were describing your plants and your setup and everything, you kind of made me think of this lady. She basically has her own bee hive thing, and people come and visit, like the groups basically sign up, so it has to be a certain number of young people, and I think she was targeting it at homeschooled groups. And basically they come over and they visit all of her bees, and she gives a talk about bees, and then I think they can buy some honey, and there's other sort of things that she offers, but basically she's offering an educational talk about bees. And so I kind of thought of you, like, you could offer an educational talk about composting or whatever it is that you know how to do.
And it doesn't have to just be children. That's the other thing.
Yes.
At the moment, education, adult education is huge business, because there's so many people who they've changed their priorities, haven't they, since lockdown and since COVID and all that. Buying the big boat isn't that important anymore for a lot of people. It's more about setting themselves up to be sustainable, and they will pay for workshops and things. I mean, prepping workshops are incredibly popular at the moment. So,
and Ramses, I also they did a thing at my school, I think it was last year, and I can't remember what organization it was, but basically they inquired whether any of the staff were interested in learning about composting, and I couldn't attend because I had a clash, but there were lots of other colleagues who attended it and they were very interested in it. So I think it turned out to be about 10 people that went, and this was after school as well, so they were really giving up their time to attend, and they were all into it. So I think you've definitely got a great idea. Now it's your time to, like, fine tune, like kind of consolidate and then take action. Like, that was kind of a pivotal point for me, and probably for you, Kelly, as well, is like you had this vision, but it isn't until you take action and you decide, like, right, I'm going to get stuck in and get working, that's when you start to see change and see some progress.
Yeah, exactly. Ramtes, I actually built both my own websites. It's not as difficult as people say it is. We were quoted between 15 and 50 $2,000 to have it set up.
Sometimes it's fidgety and a bit annoying, but like, yeah, there are
What
programs out
platform do
there
you
that
use?
can help.
Yeah, exactly.
I use Elementor.
Okay, so
Elementor.
I use Squarespace, and I actually also use Google Sites for my my personal website.
Yeah.
Both of them are so easily set up.
There's even things like, there's little things, Ramtes, like using Fiverr. So Fiverr is basically this hub of people who are really experienced or skilled in certain things. So like they could design your logo, or they could even design your website. I think there's people who can design websites on Fiverr.
I do all that myself as well on Canva. So you can do it all yourself. Actually, you can do it all yourself.
You can do it on the cheap. Basically,
you can. Because when we first started out, there were 3 of us in this business, and actually it's been going for 7 months now, this website. We're now, it's only now that we're really looking for funding, because we need the funding. Well, I need the funding now to market and do all that sort of thing. But we've spent under $2,000 setting up this business, which is remarkable, really.
And there's there's things like having to buy a domain name, and like you've got to decide who is going to be your accountant. So I use Henry, which is an amazing, I really recommend it for sole traders. Basically it's a digital accounting software service, but people are behind it all, and they can help you. You can send them questions and they'll answer them. And even if they get a lot of newbies on there, basically. So if you had a question about, expenses or whatever, they would answer them. And Henry provides like invoicing services, so you can put your logo in there and they'll generate an invoice for you, and it'll look really professional. And
so Squarespace actually does all that for you.
That's cool.
Right from the website. So it does all
there's heaps of tools out there. You just gotta kind of pick one and go for it.
Indeed. And you'll find if you really want it, you end up learning on the job. It's been the most exciting 7 months for me as an academic, really, or as a person who loves to learn. This was completely out of my league. Well, what I thought was completely out of my league, but it is totally possible to do. Definitely. Well, I think we should wrap it up there. To help with, or if you need to chat again, please just contact me through the ARC, and I'm happy to Zoom or chat or